Our nation has a problem. There are those that would say the problem is the Democrats. There are others that would say the problem is the Republicans. Some may say the problem is government. They may say that the government's too big or that the government's too small. I certainly don't agree with everything the Republicans do or everything that the Democrats do, but I will tell you, I don't think the blame in this lies on one particular group of people. This is a societal issue. I'm going to encourage you to hang in there with me this week. I've got a lot to cover. I'm your host, Jared Dyson, and this is the Closet Conservative Podcast. I have been a lifelong baseball fan. I remember as I was growing up, I remember playing t-ball, I remember playing baseball. I used to love listening to my grandfather tell me stories about his time playing baseball in the minor leagues for the Cincinnati Reds. Right beside my desk here in my office, I still have a picture that hangs on the wall of his minor league baseball team. It's an old black and white photo. It's a group photo of a group of men that loved and enjoyed playing a game. But after the news this week with the cheating scandal in the Houston Astros, baseball is left with a marred reputation. The story really reminds me of the 1919 Chicago White Sox, who threw the World Series in exchange for money from a gambling group. For their cheating, 8 players were banned from the game. It also reminds me of Pete Rose, who in 1989 was banned from the game of baseball due to gambling on his team. Here we are in 2020, and we've become well beyond this type of punishment for bad behavior. For the Houston Astros, it was just a simple 1-year ban for those involved and fines of around $5 million. If you really think about that, that's equivalent to about $100 for how much these people earn. No one has a problem with this. We simply hear the talk about how big the scandal is and how big of an issue it is, yet no one says the punishment was not enough. And then I read an article on Thursday in Newsweek where the author said that we shouldn't really criticize the Houston Astros for what they did. The article's writer, Sam Hill, says that baseball is boring and that we should encourage more cheating in order to liven up the game. Now, obviously, I'm not going to talk all the podcast about baseball. I really want to talk about society, and I want to ask the question, what has happened to our society that we think this is normal? It really shouldn't surprise us, though, given the nature of things across the American culture. I want you to think about this. We have role models that we've made out of criminals and cheaters. We have a singer that's famous named Cardi B. She's very popular and was praised because she admitted that she used to drug and rob men while she was a stripper. Obviously, this is not the greatest lifestyle that she was living, but we praise her for that. The media didn't call for her label to drop her. They didn't call for her to quit music. No, they actually celebrated her because she did what she had to do to get by. That's what they said. We celebrate actors and actresses in our society who we know use illegal drugs or have committed crimes, but that's not a problem. We celebrate celebrities who stand on stage saying that they had an abortion in order to save their careers. We don't look at the fact that they killed someone in this selfish manner, but this is exactly what it's about. It's all about self. In an article over at the Closet Conservative website, I wrote and discussed about how our political stars are all about themselves. I talked about how Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has refused to pay her part of the Democratic Party dues. Why? Because she wants things her way. She and Ilhan Omar alike have refused to comply with campaign finance laws. Why? Because they want to do things their way. They can come out with open anti-Semitic statements, but they must be supported because they're public stars. They're role models. Well, that's at least what NBC News said in an article previously about the members of the squad. They said that they're perfect role models for millennials, perfect role models for young girls. But do you really think that's true? Before you get carried away, there's some people out there that's going to say, but what about President Trump? Well, I completely agree. Let's talk about that. Never once have I shied away from calling out the fact that I don't agree with President Trump's actions. The statements he made on that Access Hollywood tape were disgraceful. The way he goes around and he bullies people, it's not right. It's not a good thing. But I've also made this argument. You should really take a look around. Look at the options that you had. In 2016, the Democratic candidate openly financed a fake dossier in order to smear President Trump. That same candidate has had multiple sketchy finance deals regarding the Clinton Foundation. I could continue on down the list, but I'm going to save some time here. We could also talk about the current candidates. We have a Democratic frontrunner named Joe Biden who has openly admitted to a quid pro quo. You remember he made that statement about that prosecutor over in Ukraine and demanded his termination And this helped his son because he was on the board of that company. Or you have Elizabeth Warren, who has lied about being a Native American. And she's continued to lie about all these things since. I mean, just recently there was a whole list of things that she's lied about. Multiple times she's been proven to be a liar, but the media overlooks that and it's ignored. But I go back, this is not just a Democratic problem. This is not a Republican problem. This is a societal problem. We have a problem with selfishness and dishonesty. We will simply look the other way and we just don't care. Another great example of this is in our home state of North Carolina. Recently, voters in our home state voted and put a constitutional amendment in for a voter ID law. As part of the law, anyone that was a resident could simply go down to our DMV office and they could get a free ID for the purpose of voting. Yes, you heard me right, absolutely free ID. But a judge struck down the law. Why would we want to protect the right for a U.S. citizen to vote? In multiple states and in multiple places, people have illegally voted posing as dead people. Others have voted being illegal immigrants. But again, our society says it's okay, we should simply look the other way. Now please believe me, I'm not naive enough to think that selfishness and dishonesty just started existing in the last year or two. I realized that it existed decades ago. I mean, I think back in 1974, Nixon tried to hide his dishonesty. Once he was proven and his lies came out, he resigned from office. It was an embarrassing event and it caused public disgrace on him. Had he not resigned, he would have probably been the first and only president to have been impeached and convicted by the House and Senate. If you fast forward to 1998, Bill Clinton openly lied about his affair in the Oval Office. But the public overlooked that. He came through with high public approval and he was acquitted by the Senate. What a difference 24 years made in our country. Now we sit in 2020, 22 years later, but this type of activity is not just in our societal leaders, it's rampant throughout our entire society. No one tries to hide their actions anymore. Celebrities, politicians, everyday members of the public alike, they're open with their affairs. They're open with their illegal activities. They don't want to resign. They don't want to leave their post because they're dishonest and immoral. We went from a society that was focused on how we get along and how we come together to be a group of Americans to a society that is more focused on how we can rise above anyone else around us. No more are we concerned with our fellow Americans. Some people will disagree with me on that note. I understand that, but I truly believe that. We have Democrats openly saying that Republicans are deplorable. Democrats have openly called anyone conservative racist, bigoted, or any other adjective you would like to use there, all derogatory terms. Gun owners are now considered terrorists in the United States. They claim this is due to gun violence across the country. Gun violence is not caused by a firearm. The root cause is our country is not interested in anyone but themselves. We are more interested in figuring out how we can make a news headline or how we can get 10,000 views on Instagram than we are in how we can help our neighbor who may need help in his garden, working on his house, caring for a sick family member. Our nation is stuck in their cell phones, more interested in which selfie will get the most interactions on social media than we are in looking up and seeing the person beside us in need. It's not our entire country, but it is the overwhelming majority. Both parties have strong lines of selfish and dishonest activity. Gone are the days of finding a job and working hard to make an honest living. Society wants everything for free. We want free food, free housing, free cars, free education, free health care. We want someone to pay us $15 an hour, whether we do any work or not. We no longer talk to people as we walk down the street and look around at those around us to see if there's any need. We're simply stuck in our cell phone. People are so concerned about how they apply the latest filter that may bring out their eyes or may cause their chin to have a great contour and texture that'll cause someone to catch their attention. Maybe they'll give them a bunch of money to simply take pictures on their phone. How did we ever get to this point in our society? We have completely sacrificed any spaces that used to bring us together. We do not have conversations anymore because someone might be different than us. We can't go to a ball game and enjoy that because the entire night they're going to be trying to push a political agenda. We used to go to church together, but now we can't do that. We might actually be told we have to be considerate of others. After all, Scripture does teach in Philippians that we should hold others in a higher position than ourselves and not be self-centered, that we should be outward focused. I certainly think that the lack of religion plays a big role in this. Our nation has walked away from its Christian founding. We have decided that we know better than the Creator that our founding fathers trusted. While I agree that the Democrat socialist agenda and big government plans put our country at risk, so does this societal issue. If we cannot find some form of common ground, some way for our nation to come back together, our nation's going to crumble.
This is the Closet Conservative Podcast. All material copyright The Closet Conservative. Music courtesy of Greg Shields Music. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to receive all the latest episodes. We can also be found online at closetconservative.net or on Facebook and Twitter.